The Young and the Restless preview for the week of November 3rd reveals the bandages will be removed from Noah Newman's face. Also coming up, Sharon Newman will tell Nick Newman that Matt Clark is alive and in Los Angeles. Plus, Holden Novak will catch up with an old friend. Y&R spoilers tease after a passionate night of lovemaking, Holden will take Clare Newman back to the shadow room, and he'll be surprised to see that Sienna Bacall's husband has returned. "Sienna told me you were in town," Mitch, aka Matt Clark, says to Holden in the Y&R weekly preview. "Been a long time." Holden will look slightly nervous, and Claire will be curious as they talk to the bar's co-owner. Meanwhile, Nick will be stunned by Sharon's news. At the hospital, she'll tell her ex-husband that she just came face-to-face with Matt Clark outside of the shadow room. "This is too much of a coincidence," Nick will say to Sharon. He'll add that there's only one way to piece it all together. "I need to see Matt Clark for myself." Finally, Sharon and Nick will get some great news. Their son is awake. In the preview, a doctor tells the excited parents they're getting ready to remove Noah's bandages. "And we'll get to see his beautiful face again," a beaming Sharon will reply as a nurse takes the bandages from her son's face. But will Noah have any answers about what happened to him? Hey Y&R fans! Are you enjoying the new CBS Sudser Beyond the Gates? Then make sure you join our free Facebook group. Keep reading the soap scoop for Young and the Restless spoilers and news. And make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless scoop for Friday, October 31st, reveals Clare Newman will sleep with Holden Novak. Also coming up, Kyle Abbott will go the extra mile for Harrison Abbott. Plus, Sharon Newman will run smack dab into Matt Clark, and Nick Newman will worry about Sharon. Y&R spoilers tease Sharon, and Nick will continue to fret over Noah Newman. She'll ask why this could have happened. Nick will say they're going to get answers soon. "When?" she'll ask. Time is not on our side. Nick will suggest Sharon go back to the hotel and get some sleep. He'll add he'll call her if there's any change. But instead of going back to the hotel, Sharon will look up the address of the shadow room so she can question Sienna Bacall herself. At the Abbott estate, Kyle and Harrison will return from a Halloween party. They'll be dressed up as two of the three little pigs' houses, Straw and Brick. Harrison will give Kyle a trophy, saying they won Best Costume. "The house made of sticks could not be here today," Harrison will say sadly. Some tricker or treaters will come to the door, and later, Kyle will head inside to replenish the candy. Harrison will come in and see that Kyle has saved a couple of chocolates, Claire's favorite. "You miss her, don't you?" he'll say to his dad. Kyle will admit he does, and Harrison will say he misses her too. Then Kyle will take a photo of them together. He'll send it to Claire and Summer Newman. Harrison will keep asking Kyle if Claire has responded, but Kyle will say she hasn't read it yet. "I hope she didn't run into the big bad wolf in LA, Harrison will say to Kyle. In LA, Claire will be living it up with Holden at the Shadow Room's Halloween party. Holden will say if she's not up to it, he'll understand. But Claire will tell him she's there because she wants to be there, with him. They'll head over to the bar and down some shooters, as Sienna Bacall watches them. She'll approach them and asks to talk to Holden alone. Sienna will tell him Kyle was there, asking questions about him and Audra Charles. "This guy, he won't quit," Holden will reply. But Sienna will say Kyle's worried Holden will take advantage of Claire. "I'm not so sure he's wrong. Do you got an agenda with her?" Holden will say he'd never do anything to hurt her. Then Sharon will show up. Claire will be surprised and ask what she's doing there. She'll say she's looking for Sienna. Claire will stumble over her words as she offers to help Sharon find her. But she'll say it's not a problem, she'll track her down. Holden will return and see Claire swaying on the dance floor. He'll smile over at her and she'll beam back at him. He'll join her, and Claire will ask what Sienna wanted. Holden will say she told him Kyle was there. "He was looking for dirt on me." Claire will be furious and say that he's ignored everything she's asked him. Holden will say he obviously wants her back. Maybe a part of her that wishes she was in Genoa City with Kyle and not there with him. Clare will respond by pulling him into a smooch. They'll kiss for a bit, and Holden will ask if she wants to dance. Clare will suggest they get out of there. Meanwhile, Sharon will find Sienna and say she's looking for information on Noah. Sienna will say he was excited about opening a nightclub in town. It'll mostly be a repeat of everything viewers already know. Except, Sharon will learn Noah was also in LA 3 months ago. She'll want to talk to Sienna's husband, but she'll say he's been out of town and is returning tonight. So, Sharon will head outside and call Nick. She'll tell him she's at the shadow room. She'll say Noah first met Sienna's husband, Mitch Bacall, in London, and their son has been in LA more than once during the past 3 months. "Please, Sharon, be careful," Nick will say, and she'll promise to call him when she's back at the hotel. After she hangs up, she'll bump into Sienna's husband, but it turns out he's not really Mitch after all. "Oh my God," Sharon will say as she looks at him. "Matt Clark?" Finally, Clare will bring Holden back to her hotel room and they'll make out. She'll move them towards the bed and he'll ask if she's sure, and Clare will slide her dress down to the floor. "Does this answer your question?" she'll reply. Keep reading the Soap Scoop for Young and the Restless spoilers and news, and make sure to also join our Why in Our Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. On The Young and the Restless, Cain and Phyllis have developed an odd business relationship that we can't quite put our finger on. We've been getting plenty of lingering stares between them, with their faces oh so close. The writers are yanking our chains with the nagging question, will they or won't they? And now that Cain suspects she may have stolen his AI program, is he trying to seduce her into giving it back? It feels like it's only a matter of time before the young and the restless Cain and Phyllis sleep together. Neither of them is involved with anyone, and even though he loves Lily, she doesn't trust him and isn't taking him back anytime soon. In Wednesday's episode, Cain's and Phyllis's conversation was loaded with flirtatious stares, compliments, and double entendres. Cain is somewhat suspicious that she stole his AI program. She assured him, "I want to be your partner. I'm not in bed with anyone else." Cain said she made him feel off balance. "If you have it your way," he said, "I'll lose my footing completely, and I don't want to end up flat on my back." She replied, "I could think of worse positions you'd be in with me." Whoa, this dialogue is getting hot. Cain complimented her on her beautiful blue eyes and said she's one of the most baffling, exasperating, and fascinating women he's ever known. Is he merely trying to seduce her into giving him back the AI, or is all this flirtiness leading up to an honest-to-goodness love affair between these two? Last week on The Young and the Restless, Cain tried to figure out whether Phyllis was the AI thief when he confronted her in her GCAC room. We were sure that scene was going to end with them sleeping together, given that they had a bed right there, and Phyllis was wearing a slinky robe and nightgown. So when it didn't happen, we figured the writers were having fun toying with us. Considering Phyllis hasn't had a man in her life in a long time, it makes sense that Cain might use that knowledge to his advantage. He may be piling on the compliments as a way of romancing her into giving him back the program. After all, he doesn't know she made a deal with Victor, and the mustache has the program now. But Phyllis is too smart to fall for whatever seduction games Cain might be playing with her. She isn't going to confess what she did, no matter how many compliments he pays her. We definitely believe she would sleep with him, though, if it benefits her in some way. One thing is for sure. If The Young and the Restless writers are leading up to a big sex scene between Cain and Phyllis soon, then Lily needs to walk in on them. That would be good old-fashioned soapy entertainment. She's been cool and collected around Cain since he came back into her life. But if she finds him in bed with Phyllis, we bet that will set her off, and she will be fuming. Imagine her confiding in Devon, saying, "Can you believe Cain? For months he's been saying he still loves me and wants me back. And now, he's sleeping with Phyllis? Of all the women in Genoa City, he picked Phyllis." Then Devon would ask her, "But if you don't love him anymore, then why do you care?" On the Thursday, October 30th episode of The Young and the Restless, Victor enlisted Michael to dig up dirt on Sienna. Kyle returned to Genoa City. Billy requested Phyllis's help, and Jack faced off against Victor about his inevitable attack. Kyle returned to the Abbott mansion after an eventful Los Angeles trip. He was excited to take Harrison trick-or-treating and participate in his surprise tandem costume. However, Jack informed Kyle that he'd have to leave the Halloween festivities to the nanny because he was needed elsewhere. Jack and Diane apologized for interrupting his time with Claire in LA, but Kyle could see the fear in their eyes. Kyle assumed their tension had something to do with Cain and his AI program, but Jack said it was a much worse threat. It was Victor. Kyle couldn't imagine how Victor seized control of the AI program, and he wondered who could have helped him obtain it. The Abbotts boosted their cybersecurity, and Diane pitched a theory that Cain's AI program was all talk and no bite. They brainstormed ways to field any leaks about the true danger they may have been in. Jack latched on to Diane's idea that the entire program was nothing more than a bluff. He wondered why someone as confident as Victor hadn't launched an attack, so he left to preemptively confront him. Diane expressed sorrow for forcing Kyle to cut his trip short, and he let it slip about Noah's accident. He explained the extent of Noah's injuries, and Diane couldn't even imagine how distraught they must be. She was shocked Allie hadn't called her grandfather to tell him about the accident. Kyle just wanted to convince Claire he was a good person, and Diane believed they'd find their way back to each other. He wanted time to fix the broken pieces, and he was tired of people getting in the way. Diane asked who Kyle was referring to. That's when he discussed people getting in the way of his reconciliation with Claire. As much as Kyle wanted to go back in time, he knew he needed to give Claire space. However, Holden remained in the picture. He knew something was off about him, but Claire was smitten with his charm. Diane wondered if they were romantically involved at all. Kyle didn't think so, but he wanted to squash it before it happened. He needed to open her eyes to the type of man Holden actually was. Kyle apologized for being out of town when Jabot needed him most, but they didn't blame him. Jack believed Cain was genuinely thrown off by the program being stolen, but Kyle didn't think they'd be able to fend off an attack. He asked how they could stop it and destroy it before it brought Jabot completely to its knees. They asked what unfinished business he had in Los Angeles, and even though things got better, his situation with Claire remained unresolved. Diane urged Kyle to back off of the crusade to uncover dirt against Holden, because of how Claire would react. If Holden was as bad as Kyle viewed him, he needed to let her see it for herself. Kyle shook off her warning, promising to fight with everything he had to illuminate her about his sordid past. Victor spotted Phyllis at the GCAC, but he got a phone call from Nikki, who called from Noah's hospital. He wanted to remain updated about his grandson's well-being, and he also wanted to stay apprised on Nick's interrogation of Sienna. He promised Nikki that Halloween would be better the following year, and he set his sights on his new business partner. He asked her if the transfer of the AI program had been accomplished, and she was ready for him to make good on his part of the deal. She wanted control of Jabot, and Victor was the only man who could make that a reality. Phyllis asked for an update on Noah, but sadly, Victor didn't have much positive news to share. He requested she keep word of Noah's accident to herself, and he switched the topic to ask about her sleeping habits. Before they could continue, Billy approached the table and asked, "What are you two doing? Just catching up or discussing serious business matters?" Victor asked why Billy was wandering over to their table, but he was ready to take on the mustache. Victor brought up Billy's kids to subdue his rival, and they were quickly joined by Michael. Victor wanted Billy to make a quick exit, but he planted his feet into the ground and stayed with Phyllis. Victor and Michael left for their own table, and Billy joined Phyllis, ready to do battle against a potential new foe. Billy wanted information about the context of Phyllis and Victor's conversation, but she initially played coy. She played off his concerns and revealed the details of Noah's accident to Billy in an effort to throw him off the scent. Billy thought the accident sounded brutal, and he promised to reach out to Nick and Sharon. He was gutted to hear that Noah was placed in a medically induced coma, but Billy wasn't sold. She asked him to keep the news of Noah's injuries to himself, and he was confused about why. Phyllis thought the conversation was over, but Billy got comfortable and chose to stay for breakfast. She wanted Billy to leave the table and requested not to have a breakfast companion. Phyllis called Billy disloyal You want to come after me? You bring your best stuff. This is a hill I am willing to die on. Victor welcomed the challenge. The Young and the Restless recap for Friday, October 31st, reveals that Matt Clark's return will stun Sharon Newman, while Claire Newman and Holden Novak hit the sheets. At the Abbott mansion, Harrison Abbott and Kyle Abbott will be dressed as two of the three little pigs, so they'll miss Claire since she was supposed to be the third one. After handing out candy, Harrison will get Kyle to take a picture of them together and send it to Summer Newman as well as Claire, but they won't get a response from either one. When it's time for bed, Harrison will crack a joke about hoping Claire doesn't run into the big bad wolf while she's away. So Kyle will hope that too and look pensive over Holden. In Los Angeles, Nick Newman will push Sharon to head back to the hotel and get some rest while he watches over Noah Newman. Instead, Sharon will visit the shadow room, where Claire will be pretty tipsy after doing shots with Holden. After Sharon asks about Sienna Bacall, she'll urge Claire to be safe. Meanwhile, Sienna will corner Holden alone and let him know Kyle was there asking about him as well as Audra Charles. However, Sienna will argue that Kyle doesn't need to know what happened and will plan to just keep stringing Kyle along. Holden will appreciate Sienna keeping things quiet and will get a reminder that she owes him. Sienna will want Holden to be ready to answer the call when she decides on a form of repayment, so he'll laugh over her not changing a bit. Afterward, Holden will reconvene with Claire and admit Kyle came there to ask Sienna for dirt on him. Claire will fume over Kyle not respecting boundaries and will just want to forget he exists, but Holden will wonder if part of her wishes she was home with Kyle instead. Once Claire pulls Holden into a kiss, she'll suggest they should get out of there. Holden and Claire will head back to a hotel room where she'll drink some water and talk about wanting a clear head for whatever comes next. Claire and Holden will eventually make out before that escalates. Holden and Claire will strip down as they fall on the bed for some erupting passion. Back with Sharon, Y&R spoilers say she'll track down Sienna and quiz her about Noah. Sienna will admit that her husband, Mitch Bacall, met Noah in London and offered to invest in a LA branch of his club. Sienna will note that Noah first came there 3 months ago to check out the scene and that he's been there multiple times. Sharon won't understand why Noah would keep all this under wraps. Although Sharon will want to talk to Mitch, Sienna will point out that he's just getting back from a trip. It'll leave Sienna uncertain of whether Mitch will show up at the club tonight, but Sharon will stick around anyway. Outside the club's entrance, Sharon will call Nick with updates and leave him concerned since Halloween in LA isn't the best time for her to be off playing detective. Sharon will assure Nick that she can handle herself and will plan to head back to the hotel if Mitch doesn't show up. Once Sharon disconnects, she'll reel when a familiar face pops up. It turns out Mitch Bacall is actually creepy Matt Clark, who has a long history of tormenting both Sharon and Nick. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Sharon will blurt out Matt Clark's name and will definitely be horrified to see him, so stay tuned for any other shocking news to come. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Monday, November 3rd, reveal that Sharon Newman will spill some disturbing news while Sienna Bacall grills Mitch Bacall, aka Matt Clark. For starters, it looks like Sharon will continue her unsettling encounter with Matt outside the shadow room. It'll probably leave Sharon stammering about how Matt's supposed to be dead, but he may argue that Matt might as well be since he's living a new life as Mitch in Los Angeles. Of course, it's also possible that Mitch will try to claim this is a case of mistaken identity and argue that he simply looks like this Matt person. However, Sharon will know in her bones that she's looking at Matt, one of the worst enemies she's had the displeasure of knowing in her lifetime. Sharon will eventually reconvene with Nick Newman and give him a shock when she reveals her Matt run-in. Matt's interactions with Noah will prove quite troubling to Nick and Sharon, so they'll become even more determined to uncover the whole truth. As for Sienna, she'll reconnect with her husband. Mitch will face Sienna's interrogation since he was gone way longer than expected, and so much has happened in his absence. Y&R hasn't revealed how much Sienna knows about Mitch's past as Matt, so it'll be interesting to see what she's aware of. Sienna may ultimately get some stunning updates of her own if she's not privy to all the horrors Mitch inflicted back when he was Matt. On another note, viewers may see the aftermath of Claire Newman and Holden Novak's first time in bed together. Clare may assure Holden that she has no regrets, but will she feel a little guilty deep down? It's true that Clare is single since she broke up with Kyle before going on this trip. Even so, part of Clare may feel like she's betraying Kyle on some level and struggle with that as a result. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Clare will have to figure out how she feels about that bedroom surrender with Holden, so stay tuned. The war on the Young and the Restless between Jack Abbott and Victor Newman is heating up. Victor's gotten his hands on the powerful artificial intelligence software and stands to bring down Jabot Cosmetics. Jack is going to go all out to stop Victor, and he's not the only Abbott capable of stopping him. Victor's dislike of Jack runs deep. Even before Jack spent a platonic night with Nikki, Victor's beloved, to help her stay on the wagon, Jack and Victor were hardly pals. Their vendetta dates back to the 1980s, when Jack truly was having a fling with Nikki. By the end of the decade, Victor had wrested control of Jabot Cosmetics after Jack took the company public. Jack schemed to marry Nikki, now divorced from Victor, and use her as a bargaining chip to re-win Jabot back from the mustached mogul. Jack fell in love with Nikki, but felt powerless to stop her as she became an alcoholic, to deal with severe back pain after a fall from a horse. Meanwhile, Victor married Ashley. Victor's had many loves, but Ashley is the one who has arguably come closest to winning his heart after Nikki. In the late 1990s, the Abbotts were this close to re-winning control of Jabot from Victor. However, the mogul had it within his power to keep the company. What stopped him? Ashley did. Once again played by Eileen Davidson at this point, Ash visited Victor in his office and begged no. She demanded that Victor let the Abbotts have Jabot back. If he didn't, then what they had meant nothing, Ashley maintained. Unable to ignore Ashley's stance, Victor conceded. John Abbott was once again the rightful owner of Jabot Cosmetics, the company he founded. Who better than Ashley to once again intervene on her family's behalf, as Jabot Cosmetics is at stake? Ashley and Victor went on to have another marriage that also ended in divorce, but Ashley used Victor's specimen to impregnate herself when she wanted to have a baby. Ash and Victor are forever tied together through their daughter, Abby. Perhaps if Ashley were to once again have a one-on-one with Victor and use their long-running relationship, she may convince him to leave Jabot Cosmetics unscathed. She may be the only person who can change his mind. The Young and the Restless preview video for the week of November 3 through 7 reveals that Noah Newman's bandages will be removed. Nick Newman will also demand to see Matt Clark, aka Mitch Bacall. So let's talk about all the shockers ahead. YNR's weekly promo kicks off with Mitch standing next to Sienna Bacall as they speak with Holden Novak and Clare Newman. Mitch will point out that Sienna told him Holden was in town and will acknowledge that it's been a long time. Things will seem a bit tense, so Clare may wonder about the history here and how well Holden really knows the Bacalls. Of course, Mitch is actually Matt Clark, based on Sharon Newman's reaction to their encounter in the October 31st episode. Matt used to be a major villain on the show, so he's got quite a past with Sharon and Nick. We're talking about someone who's guilty of horrendous crimes like forcing himself on Sharon, setting Nick up to face multiple prison sentences, and a whole lot more. Sharon thought Matt's days of wreaking havoc were over since he seemingly faced a grim fate. But now he's back and living in LA under the name Mitch Bacall. It won't be long until Sharon gives Nick the jaw-dropping news of Matt's return. Nick will fume over Matt resurfacing and will plan to confront him soon enough. This is too much of a coincidence. There's only one way to piece it all together. I need to see Matt Clark for myself, Nick declares in YNR's weekly preview video. However, Nick and Sharon will ultimately turn their attention to Noah since he's about to wake up. Noah's doctor will later tell Sharon and Nick that they're ready to remove Noah's bandages, so they'll look forward to seeing his beautiful face again. Of course, that face will look a little different to fans now that Lucas Adams is taking over the part. Adams will make his debut as Noah in the November 4 episode, so stay tuned for updates on what he'll have to say once he awakens. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Noah will deal with plenty of questions and concerns about the secrets he's been keeping. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Victor Newman may betray Phyllis Summers and put a surprise Newman on the Jabot throne after the takeover. Jack Abbott plans on doing everything he can to fight off Victor's threat, but Victor is just as determined to make Jack pay. It's clear that Victor is committed to going after Jack and leaving the Abbotts scrambling. Phyllis agreed to hand over the AI program so Victor could wreak havoc, but she expects something in return. Victor claims he's willing to give Phyllis control of Jabot once he carries out his plot, but will he really keep his word? Y&R viewers have seen plenty of people get burned by Victor, and deals they thought were locked in. Victor is always going to do what's best for the Newmans in the end, so Phyllis really has no guarantee he'll keep his promise. The fact that Victor isn't a big fan of Phyllis could work against her too. Victor may decide that Phyllis has served her purpose and determine that he really doesn't care if she gets what she wants out of this. With all that in mind, perhaps we should consider other options for the future of Jabot. If Victor succeeds in taking over the company, he might choose to put a Newman on the throne instead of Phyllis. Of course, that could get tricky since certain Newmans won't approve of Victor's takeover scheme. Nikki Newman certainly wouldn't want to take charge of Jabot. The same presumably goes for Victoria Newman, Nick Newman, and Claire Newman. Even Adam Newman might struggle to obey that order, since he's considered Jack a friend for quite some time. Perhaps Victor's best bet would be to recruit a different Newman, who'll be settling back in Genoa City. Noah Newman has been out of the corporate game for a while now, but what if Victor uses this situation to pull him back in? Although Noah is currently in a coma, he'll be looking healthy by Christmas time in GC. Despite Noah's efforts to distance himself from his Newman identity, that's not going to work for Victor. Noah may ditch all this nightclub stuff and return to the Newman fold in the end. If Noah gets sucked back into Newman drama, he could show off the edgy side this recast is supposed to have by sliding in the Jabot CEO spot. That could create a rivalry between Noah and Kyle Abbott, with Claire caught in the middle of it all. Whatever the case, Victor may have a change of heart when it comes to keeping his end of the Phyllis bargain, and push a Newman into power at Jabot down the road. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Phyllis could wind up furious sooner or later, so stick with us for updates on any betrayal news she might face the Young and the Restless Titans. Jack Abbott and Victor Newman are going toe-to-toe against each other, as Victor is determined to make Jack pay for trying to keep Nikki from falling off the wagon. Now, Peter Bergman, Jack's portrayer, is speaking out on the long-running feud. Sure, they were getting along for a hot second, as both Jack and Victor have Cain as a common threat. But all that seems to be out the window now that Victor has Cain's coveted AI program in his hands. There's a lot of the behind-the-scenes backstabbing going on in this particular one, Bergman told Soap Opera Digest about the business wars going on in Genoa City. Might Jack use the AI software against Victor if he were to get his hands on it? Quite possibly. What Victor may not be admitting is that he loathes Jack because he was the one who helped Nikki through one of the darkest periods in her life. Jack truly put it all on the table to help Nikki. In fact, he risked his own sobriety to help Nikki stay on the wagon. Not only did that infuriate Victor, but Diane was miffed that Jack risked his own health to help his ex-wife. Would this latest dynamic be any different if Jack were the one who had the AI software? Maybe not. Jack recently floated by Diane that they use the AI program against Victor. Diane was more than okay with that. After all, Victor had treated their son, Kyle, horribly regarding Kyle's romance with Claire, Victor's granddaughter. Despite Jack being Abby's uncle and Victor being Abby's father, there is little to no common ground between these two business moguls. When Victor was presumed dead, Jack managed to get himself into Victor's chair at Newman Enterprises. That didn't go over well when Victor returned from the great beyond. While Jack and Diane are happily wed today, longtime Y&R viewers recall Victor charming Diane away from Jack back in the mid to late 1990s. Victor whisked Diane away on private jets, introducing her to a life she'd never experienced. Jack's heart was broken when Diane married Victor. The honeymoon was over, though, when Victor divorced Diane so he could wed a dying Nikki, who beat the odds and lived. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that evil Matt Clark's history needs to be explained now that he's back on the show. For fans who aren't familiar with the character or just need a refresher, we should talk about why Matt's return is Sharon Newman and Nick Newman's worst nightmare. In the October 31st episode, Sharon was horrified to come face-to-face with a wicked character from her past. Mitch Bacall is really Matt Clark, based on the name Sharon blurted out when she saw him. Eddie Cibrian first played Matt from 1994 to 1996 and was paired up with Sharon early on. Matt dated Sharon in high school before Nick ultimately won her heart, and a rivalry ensued. Y&R turned Matt into quite the monster since he raped Sharon and later lied about Nick shooting him. Thanks to Matt, Nick was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but his name was eventually cleared. Matt was played by Russell Lawrence briefly, but viewers may find Rick Hurst's run as Matt from 2000 to 2001 the most memorable. Sharon and Nick faced another round of torment after Matt got plastic surgery and returned to town using the name Carter Mills. Matt framed Nick for selling drugs and nearly raped Sharon again on multiple occasions. In the end, Matt landed in the hospital with serious injuries following a car crash, but he wasn't done making Nick and Sharon miserable. Since Matt was barely clinging to life anyway, he yanked out his breathing tube and placed it in Nick's hand. Matt set Nick up for killing him, even in his dying moments. Nick was thankfully exonerated in the end, but it's clear that Matt is bad news, and always has been. Since Matt died on screen, fans are eager to hear how the show will explain his comeback. Of course, the fact that Mitch, aka Matt, has been pulling Noah Newman into a dangerous web is sure to concern Sharon and Nick too. Matt is a monster who's capable of anything, so Nick and Sharon will definitely be on edge as they continue to seek answers. The young and the restless spoilers say Matt's return will shake things up in some wild ways, so stay tuned for updates on all the turmoil. Young and the Restless, early spoilers for Nov 307, 2025, reveal Kyle Abbott making a deal and Billy Abbott digging into something. As we always do on Early Edition Day, we start with what's coming the rest of this week and then dive into what is coming next week. On Wednesday, October 29th, we've got Jack Abbott telling Billy that Victor Newman stole Cain Ashby's AI, and Jack thinks that Phyllis Summers helped him do it. Jack wants Billy to try and shake some information out of Phyllis, but Billy says she won't tell him if she is working with Victor. Billy actually thinks Jack may stand a better chance of getting info from Phyllis, but he disagrees. Jack vows to make Phyllis pay if she is part of this, and if she is helping Victor target Jabot. Billy is absolutely in agreement with Jack on all of this. Then his brother notices bruises on Billy's knuckles, and he admits that he punched Adam Newman. Jack agrees that fighting the Newmans right now is fine, and they need to come at them hard. Billy goes to find Phyllis to ask her some tough questions. But first, Cain is with Phyllis and says that he thinks she's playing him when she keeps insisting that Victor is going to target Arabesque with the AI that he stole because she's a lying liar. Cain asks why Victor wouldn't go after Jack and Jabot, and Phyllis says it's because Cain is to blame for Nick Newman getting hurt in France. Phyllis gets upset when Cain says he warned Diane Jenkins and Jack about the stolen AI. And Cain also wants to know why Phyllis is upset that he warned the Abbotts. She insists that Damien can trust her. He thinks Phyllis is trying to keep him off balance and distract him while she stabs him in the back. However, Cain is also kind of flirty with Phyllis and calls her fascinating. But I don't know if he's being sincere or if he's playing with her because he knows she stole his AI. Nikki Newman and Victoria Newman are at the hospital, and Sharon Newman wants to take them in so Noah Newman can hear their voices. Nick, meanwhile, is not happy with the investigation into the crash, and he wants to talk to Sienna. So, Sharon tells Nick, Go dig into it." And then Sharon tells Nikki and Victoria how awful it is to be in the same position with another child traumatized by a car crash, and they comfort her. Kyle asked Sienna Bacall to tell him all about Audra Charles. She will, but first, she wants an update on Noah. Sienna says that Noah was in her club doing research about opening his club in LA, and her husband Mitch was considering investing. And she says that Nick has already come to see her about the wreck. Sienna says that Noah was there the night of the crash, and Kyle is wondering if it is foul play. Who would go after Noah? Then Nick shows up, and Sienna speaks to him alone. She says that nothing was off in the club or strange the night that Noah was injured. Nick wants to speak with her staff, and he's also shocked to find out from Sienna that the police did not talk to her at all. Nick thinks she's holding back, He's completely mistrusting her, and Sienna says he can talk to her staff tomorrow. It's too busy right now, and they're understaffed. But then Nick accuses Sienna of being up to something and trying to buy time to talk to her staff and get all their stories straight on Young and the Restless. And then Nick starts implying that Sienna must have been interested in Noah, but she says, "Look, I'm married." Nick's main exercise has always been jumping to conclusions, and he's not exactly the brightest crayon in the box, you know. Also, Kyle makes a deal with her. Sienna will tell him about Audra and Holden Novak if Kyle agrees to look into Noah's accident. On Thursday, October 30th, it is the official kickoff of November sweeps on Young and the Restless, and we've got Jack stepping up to protect his family and protect Jabot and their legacy. And obviously, they're concerned about Victor, the AI program, and also Phyllis. Meanwhile, Billy and Phyllis swap some info. And of course, Billy and Jack are working together to try and figure out if Phyllis is involved and who she's working with, and whether she might help them since she's a super-duper hacker. Jack and Billy definitely want Phyllis on their side. And I wonder if she'd tell Billy that she stole Cain's AI and gave it to Victor, but is tricking him, or if she's going to lie to them the same way she's lying to Cain. Victor offers Michael Baldwin another chance to get back into his good graces. I assume that Victor wants Michael back as his fixer while he's using the AI, because Victor knows he might have some legal problems come out of this. On Friday, October 31st, we've got Holden seeing Claire Grace Newman in a whole new way. I wonder if she's going to do up all sexy for Halloween. We have scenes soon with Mitch Bacall. He is Sienna's hubby, the Shadow Lounge manager, of course, who's a friend of Holden. So, we may get him at the end of this week, or it may be in next week when things kick up into high gear because of sweeps. So, Kyle is going above and beyond for Harrison Locke on Friday. I do wonder if Kyle jets back to Genoa City just to go trick-or-treating with his kid, and then turns around and goes back to LA so he can follow through on this deal with Sienna. He's desperate to discredit Audra. And if he can get some info on Holden as well, that would be great. And Kyle may try and convince Claire to come for Halloween with Harrison, but I don't think she's going to miss Halloween in Los Angeles. Sharon's quest for answers about Noah's accident leads her into danger by the end of this week. And then heading into next week, November 3rd through the 7th, it is the first full week of November sweeps. So, big stuff building up. Sally Spectra has faith in Audra, but what Kyle uncovers about Audra could hurt Sally and Abbott. I'm starting to wonder if that company is ever going to launch. Sharon and Nick are both heading into danger soon as they chase leads about Noah's crash. Cain is fighting to get his AI back. He wants to redeem himself in the eyes of his kids and get Lily Winter's forgiveness. And he's also trying to fight that temptation that is Phyllis. Victoria and Nikki can't stay in Los Angeles too long because of the AI crisis, and they're needed at Newman Enterprises. But pretty soon, the Newmans are going to bring Noah back to Genoa City to finish recuperating. Noah's recovery is going to be slow, but he is up and fine, walking and talking before Christmas. I've seen behind-the-scenes pictures. You can see them here where Noah is on the set. He's at Crimson Lights, and see the Christmas decor. So, he's going to be just fine. And it looks like Mitch and Sienna may actually relocate to Genoa City, at least for a while. So, Kyle is also back in Genoa City soon, and he may make Audra's life miserable if Sienna gives him some really super-duper good dirt. By the way, we have the dates for Christine Cricket Blair and Danny Romalotti's wedding. It's going to be deeper into November Friday, November 21st, and Monday, November 24th. Welcome to the Young and the Restless Daily YAPP for a quick, and by that, I mean you're already halfway done, recap of the most amazing or what the heck did we just watch moments on today's episode. Let's get to it. The two longest-running rivalries on the Young and the Restless are the ones between Jill and the late Catherine, and the one between Jack and Victor. The two men have battled over business, Nikki, Diane, and Jack's sister, Ashley. At the root of their current conflict is Nikki. Last year, Jack and Nikki spent a platonic night in a hotel room as Jack risked his own sobriety to help Nikki get a handle on hers. Victor probably knows that nothing sexual happened between his wife and her ex during the intervention, but he doesn't care. Victor feels that Jack had no business being emotionally intimate with Nikki. The mustached mogul is going to make Jack pay. Cain's AI software program, in Victor's hands, can destroy Jabot Cosmetics. We saw Jack grab the bull by the horns and help himself into Victor's home, ready for battle. Victor quipped that Jack was a day early for Halloween, but Jack was there to issue a dire warning, not to ask for a trick or a treat. Jack promised Victor, who feigned innocence, that if he planned to use Cain's AI program, he'd be in for the battle of his life. "You want to come after me? You bring your best stuff," Jack shouted. "This is a hill I am willing to die on," Victor countered. "I'm looking forward to that." The Young and the Restless included this confrontation in the episode's final 2 acts, a reminder to never miss a full episode of the top-rated soap. You never know when the best part is coming. Want more details? We got you! Soap Central has the best full Y&R recaps on the internet. You can even go back over 30 years and read each and every one of them. If you can't wait until the next episode, we have daily spoilers too. And whatever you do this weekend, do not. Seriously, do not. Forget to read the 2 Scoop for some laughs in the as close as we can come to being a watching party without actually being a show. And the best part is if you agree or disagree, we want to know. As always, share your comments below.